Hello, my darling ghosts and ghouls. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Kit, and I'm here with my husband, and we're going to be chatting about Crimson Peak on my very first review here on my channel, Dark Gem. Thanks for tuning in. So, Crimson Peak, what do you think?
I thought it was alright in general, but I think we should probably get into what the film's actually about, so if people haven't seen it. Obviously there's going to be spoilers and stuff in this, so if you don't want to hear any spoilers or anything like that, well, go somewhere else. It's kind of as simple as that. But anyway, on to Crimson Peak. So where does it start? While you're drinking your tea.
I always have tea. It starts in Buffalo, New York in the late 1800s, so we're already getting into the mutton sleeve fashion. For those of you who don't know, it's basically a sleeve that looks like a mutton chop.
Yeah.
Very unfashionable and ugly, if you ask me.
One of those weird fashions which I think we're happy that it died out, to be quite honest.
There's no bustle, and that's very disappointing.
Yeah. Well, not enough bustle, anyway.
There's no bustle, shush.
But from there, it basically sets the scene with Tom Hiddleston being there, or as he's known in the movie, Thomas Sharp. He basically goes to see a man called Carter Cushing, who is an investor with his mates in New York. They're basically very expensive people, and he's looking for money to fund some of his projects. Mainly a mine to get out, what is it, clay?
Clay.
Yeah, clay from the bottom. But it doesn't go too well, does it?
No.
And why is that?
Well, basically, Mr. Cushing, Tom Hiddleston's character, Thomas Sharp, he's all there with essentially a toy. It was a model, but yeah. The way that Carter Cushing put it was, all you have, sir, is a toy and fancy words and paperwork.
In America, we bank on effort, not privilege.
Does it actually work? Have you used this machine on a larger scale? Do you know if it's going to do anything? And of course, Thomas Sharp is like, well, no, I don't know. Carter goes off to tell him, like, well, you've tried in Milan. You've tried in England, where you're from. You've tried in, what was it, Edinburgh?
Edinburgh, yeah.
Yeah.
In Scotland.
In Scotland, and you failed.
Yeah.
So why the hell am I going to give you my money?
Like, basically, it was just a big kind of fuck you to Thomas Sharp from Carter. It was like, well, we know where you've been in the past. Maybe you're trying to come here with the greatest intentions, but because these people have already turned you down, why would we do it? And but that's only really the start of the story. That's basically getting Thomas Sharp into the area of New York where he meets Mr. Cushing's daughter,
Edith,
who is played by Mia Wasikowska, which is a great name. And basically, Edith is very sheltered, I would say, wouldn't you?
Yeah, she's a writer, so it's okay.
Yeah, she's one of these hopeless romantics who writes the stories about, the prince coming to get the princess, and there's always adversity, and then they overcome it. She basically doesn't really see the world as it is, just because she hasn't experienced it, because her dad has sheltered her. And Carter, he obviously doesn't like this Thomas Sharp guy, but his daughter has kind of fallen for him.
Yeah.
For no real reason apart from, well, Thomas Sharp, who's played by Tom Hiddleston, is a gorgeous man. Like, I mean, that's basically what it is. And with Edith and Thomas Sharp, the chemistry is obviously kind of there. But you have a stumbling block, don't you?
Yeah.
Which is obviously Carter Cushing, Edith's dad. And from there, what happens? Carter is trying to stop them from being together.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, no, I'm not going to give you my money, but you're also not going to take my daughter.
Yeah.
So, very American, fuck you. Here's a check, bugger the hell off.
Yeah, he basically shows Thomas Sharp a piece of paper, and also Thomas Sharp's sister, who is Lucille Sharp, who we'll talk about a bit later.
Yeah.
But anyway, he gives...
he had hired kind of like a private detective and
Yeah.
said, okay, well, I need to know what's on this, like, what's up with this guy? And he has irrefutable proof as to why Thomas cannot marry his daughter. And he goes, okay, well, here's the check. Break my daughter's heart. Get on the first train. Go. Goodbye.
Yeah. And I think it's right to say at this point, like, as a viewer, you aren't told what the reason is. You're just shown a piece of paper, and it's very hard to tell what's on it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of open to suggestion in that way. So obviously, after that, Thomas basically tells Edith she's a sheltered little brat, has no idea about the world, tells her writing's stupid, you know, all the classic stuff to get a girl to stay away from you.
Yeah, basically to slap him in the face, cry, and run upstairs.
You clearly haven't lived at all. In fact, you only seem to know what other writers tell you.
That's enough.
You insist on describing the torments of love when you clearly know nothing about them. I'm not done yet!
But then the next day, Carter is shaving himself. It is the next day. It's the next morning. And a man comes in and bashes his head against a sink. Basically meaning that, well, he's dead now.
Yeah.
Which kind of came out of left field a bit.
You kind of knew it was coming, though, just because of the fact that it's like, you won't let me marry your daughter. I need some cash. I'm just gonna kill you.
Yeah.
You know it's Thomas Sharp. You know it's him. Even though they don't show you who it is that's killing Mr. Cushing, but you know.
It's one of the most obvious, like, it's one of those things where to the viewer it's very obvious who's done it because, well, these are the only real characters we've been shown in the movie.
It's a cliche.
Yeah, it is. But the thing is, you can kind of understand why other like characters in the film wouldn't really understand who it was, or they wouldn't have their suspicions because they think Thomas is gone on the first train.
Yeah.
While all that went on, Edith got a letter, didn't she?
She basically got a letter from Mr. Sharp saying, I didn't exactly mean what I said.
Yeah.
Your dad basically paid me off. He told me to break your heart, but I really do love you. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. And no one cares. And then she's like, Annie, who is her lady's maid, get me my coat. And she's running out in last night's dinner dress.
Annie?
He also asked me to break your heart.
My coat!
What? What kind of impropriety is that? You just don't. That makes you look tacky. Very tacky. Anyway. So she runs to the hotel that he was staying at and runs into his room, and he's not there. And the maids are like, oh, I'm sorry, miss, but he just left on the first train. She goes out into the hall, and she's all heartbroken, like, oh my God, he's gone forever. And she turns around, and there he is, and then they kiss in public, and again, the impropriety of it all, kissing in public, the way that he sucks her mouth into his like he's trying to eat her face.
But you do have to remember this is America, and that America
I suppose
was.
they're brash, but that doesn't mean a British person can be brash like an American.
But they won't know he's British though. Like, they just assume he's American. Like, it's brash by British standards, but by American, by that point in time in the late 1800s, that was kind of normal, to be honest. But anyway, it's that basically sets the scene. You have the funeral of Carter Cushing.
Which could have been left out.
It could have been, but we'll get into that later. And then, straight after that, Tom Hiddleston, Thomas Sharp, marries Edith Cushing.
Yeah.
And they go back to England. They stay in Thomas Sharp's house, who lives with his sister Lucille, played by Jessica Chastain, or Chastain, which is another interesting name. And you find out that the house is built on
a clay mine.
A clay mine.
So she comes into the house, she's like, oh, this is a huge house, wow. And then she kind of looks up, because she's bitching about how the fact that it's colder in the house than it is outside the house.
Does it look the part?
It does. Although it's even colder inside than out.
I know, it's a disgrace. We try to maintain the house as best we can, but with the cold and the rain, it's impossible to stop the damp and erosion.
There's this giant-ass hole in the ceiling. And then, of course, because they're built on a mine and the house is sinking, he squishes a floorboard and a bunch of red clay goes right out of the floorboards. Because the house is sinking.
Yeah.
And there's red clay everywhere. It's on the walls. It's on the floor. It stains everything.
But one thing I suppose in the film, like, it didn't, the clay itself, even though the house was sinking, according to, Thomas Sharp, it never really sunk in the film.
No.
But it's basically still setting the scene at this point.
It was sinking over time. I think that's what they were referring to. And of course, it's a, beautiful visual and everything, but the whole clay thing I thought it was stupid, to be honest.
Yeah. So right now, what we'll do is, after talking about that part, we'll have a talk about what we thought about it, because that's basically the first act of the film.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Like it's the first half an hour or so of a 2-hour film, and it basically sets the scene. So, I thought the guy who played Edith Cushing's dad, Carter, actually did it all right. Like he set the stage of who he was.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked him.
Yeah, he was your typical investor dude who is obviously very skeptical about young people coming in going, give me all your money and I'll make you millions. Because he's probably seen about 1,000 of them before.
Yeah.
And his wife seemed to be dead, or was dead.
That was like the first part of the movie, because it was all about, it's basically Miss Cushing, who turns into Mrs. Sharp, of course. She's writing about a ghost story.
Yeah.
And that's a stupid introduction right there. Any of the ghosts in this entire film just could have been left out.
Yeah, they could have.
Except the last one.
Who still could have been left out.
Yeah, well, I thought it was okay.
But anyway, like, back to that first part with Edith. With Carter Cushing, he played it well, and they also introduced a character who's called Dr. Alan McMichael, which is a ridiculous name, but he's played by Charlie Hunnam, and if you know Guillermo del Toro at all, you know that Charlie Hunnam also was in Pacific Rim as one of the main characters. He seems to like this guy, so he'll probably be in about 50 of his films from now to the end of days.
It's like Johnny Depp and Helena Bonham Carter. They're very much typecast and popular. They're just in Tim Burton's films.
Yeah.
They do it so well.
But basically, the reason that Dr. Alan McMichael is there is to once again create a rift between Thomas Sharp and Edith Cushing in the first act, with Carter Cushing basically wanting his daughter to marry the doctor. And the daughter is like, I don't like this dude. And that's basically the story of the first part. That's maybe you can use it as a reason why she was pushed more to Thomas Sharp instead of the doctor. But that's just kind of how it is with that, with Carter Cushing. But the whole death thing didn't really need to be there. They could have done it in a different way with Edith just running away, like with Tom.
Yeah.
But, I mean, overall, it was okay. So we'll move on to the second act, I suppose. The first act did well at setting up the story. So the second act starts in the kitchen of the house.
Yeah. What was it? Edith wants a set of keys. Lucille is like, no.
You don't need them.
It's basically, she's the proprietress of the house, and it's like, no, you don't need these keys. Don't worry about it. Once you familiarize yourself with the house, then I'll give you a set of keys.
Yeah.
With the total intent of not having to give her a set of keys.
When it's convenient, would you mind getting me a copy of the house keys, please?
You don't need one.
I'm sorry?
There are parts of the house that are unsafe. It will take you a few days to familiarize yourself. Then, should you still feel you need them, I'll have copies made.
And there's a lot of tea involved.
Yeah, like there's basically, in a lot of scenes in the house, there's always tea. And it's this berry tea. I can't remember what berry it was.
Oh, I can't remember either. I didn't really pay too much attention to it. But, Yeah, Edith starts drinking this tea.
Yeah, and with the keys and everything like that, it was really odd because like the first moment you see Lucille, which is in the first act, she's playing the piano, the way that she looks and the clothes that she wears, you instantly know.
You know she's evil.
Yeah, it's like it's one of the most obvious things. Like with Thomas Sharp, he wears the same colors, but it's all about body language, where he looks confident, he's smiley, is all these things.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas Lucille just has this face, which means I'm the devil, I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah, exactly. And thus we find out later on, having to do with the tea, and I figured it out in, like, what, the second time that Edith wakes up in the bed, and she's holding her stomach, and I'm like, yeah, shit, the tea's poison. Well, stop drinking the fucking tea, you dumb bint. But anyway.
Well, with Edith, she is quite a sheltered character, so you can maybe give her a bit of leeway when it comes to stuff like that.
No.
But she's hardly ever been out of her own house. So how would she be able to work out what was happening?
Well, she was just going, ew, the tea is bitter.
You don't like it?
It's a little bitter.
Well, yeah.
I mean, if anything, I probably would start asking if I can have some sugar or cream or whatever to put into it. And as soon as somebody said to me, well, no, you can't do that, or we don't have any in the larder, sorry, I'd be like, well, I don't want this damn tea.
They put sugar in the tea, though. They put sugar lumps in the tea. Do you remember?
No.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, while I'm editing this together, I'll put the video part of where they're putting sugar in the tea.
Oh, he just wants to prove me wrong.
Because I'm pretty
Thanks.
sure they do it. But like the whole second act is her wandering around the house, and
in her nightdress.
In her nightdress, yeah.
Which is ugly.
It is.
It is.
And basically just wandering around, seeing different rooms. Thomas basically going, don't go there, don't go there, don't go there.
Don't use the elevator to go down.
Yeah, like they basically said the ground floor is as low as you can go, which would, to an average person, be like, why? Why wouldn't I do that?
But she just goes, okay, husband.
Yeah.
I'll do that. I'll do anything that you say. I'm a good wife.
Yeah, you can basically kind of say that she's blinded by love. In parts of the movie anyway. But with the issue with the second act is, yeah, it sets up quite a... Well, it doesn't really set up anything.
No, it doesn't, because it's just a bunch of pointless ghosts, and then her going into absolute hysterics, and then Lucille going, oh, here, my dear, have some tea.
Yeah.
It'll calm your nerves. Then the next time she's, hacking up blood, and when she wakes up, it's like, well, you couldn't figure it out then. You had to have a damn recording tell you?
Yeah, but if we're, once again, with Edith Cushing, she's supposed to be the sheltered girl. She's never been to England. She's hardly ever been anywhere. She writes bloody romance novels. Like, she's got to be somehow sheltered. And therefore, maybe she doesn't notice things that your average person would.
She noticed that Thomas, his shoes were shined but well worn, and his suit was cut fine, but from a century ago. She was very observant in that, so why the hell wasn't she observant in the house that she just comes into?
Well,
it's so
yeah.
stupid.
I think that's a fair point, actually. I forgot about that.
Yeah, maybe we could just cut her out of the damn film.
Well, basically the whole reason why Thomas Sharp and Lucille Sharp want Edith Cushing in their house and to sign the marital papers is so they basically get Carter Cushing's fortune, it seems. Isn't it? Yeah.
Anything that belonged to Edith would soon be theirs, and then they could use it to, keep themselves going.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Because Carter died because he was murdered. So all of his assets went to Edith, but because of the way the laws worked back then, Edith had to get married in order to claim her assets, which would also go to her husband, Thomas.
Yeah.
Yeah. But for some reason, she didn't sign the papers.
Well, she didn't really have an opportunity to do so, because by that time, where Lucille is thrusting papers in her face.
But that's right at the end of the movie.
Yeah, that's right at the end of the movie. It's basically thrusting papers in her face, going, sign it, and Edith is basically going, no.
But,
And Lucille's like, well, you gotta sign it anyway.
but
You
what,
don't have anything left to live for.
But what's the reason for her not signing them straight away when she gets into the house? Or even straight after she gets married?
Dunno.
Like,
They don't put that in anywhere.
no. Like,
It's stupid.
Like, basically, the whole reason she signs this thing, it seems so that all of her like money and everything goes to the Sharps, and that's the reason. But surely in a marriage, that's already happened. It goes to Thomas Sharp because of the times back then and the laws. And if not, then she's still tied to the house that she's living in. Like, that's kind of just how it works and her investments. So I don't know why they had to sign this thing at the end.
Yeah.
Or even get it signed at all.
I think it was because of the fact that she was drinking all this tea and it was poison. And she was basically dying anyway, so if she signed the papers, she basically signed her life away.
Well, she already did, though.
Hmm.
Because by getting married to Thomas?
Yeah, but that's...
Like, how do the papers benefit Lucille and Thomas?
I don't know. They didn't really put that in there as something to the story.
Yeah.
When Edith did manage to take a key, because she went down into the 4th floor,
Yeah.
she found this trunk. It was, like on the trunk, it said ES. So when she was upstairs at one point, because they'd gotten snowed in while they were getting machine parts, so they had to come back the next day. Whereas Lucille is all in a huff and, where the hell were you? And I was worried and you could have died and blah blah blah.